The first light never shone. It was revealed by the absence of its own reflection. We look into the black, and it looks back, not with eyes, but with geometry. The field around it bends what dares to pass, and in that bending, a silent map of space begins to speak. Every photon that approaches carries a story of where it came from, and loses that memory the moment it crosses the edge of reason. What we call darkness is not the lack of illumination, but the place where the rules of light are rewritten. Here, gravity stops being a pull and becomes a form of thought, a curvature that teaches the universe how to listen to itself. Inside this silence, matter folds into memory, and memory forgets its shape. The stars do not die here, they remember differently. Gravity does not begin as a force, it emerges as a question. We feel its pull before we understand its shape, a gentle hand that turns curiosity into motion. Each object in the universe leans toward another, not out of desire, but from a shared memory of origin. In the mathematics of curvature, mass and space are not separate actors. They speak in a grammar of bending and response. A star tells space how to curve, space tells the star how to move, and the dialogue never ends. This conversation is silent, yet its echo writes the architecture of galaxies. When we say gravity pulls, we are translating a thought too large for language. It is not force, it is permission, a slow agreement between time and form. Every fall we witness is a reminder that order is simply the memory of how to return home. A straight line is only an illusion told by distance. When light travels near the massive, it forgets the idea of forward and learns to dance around gravity's intent. Curved paths are not distortions. They are the truest motion a universe can speak. In every deflection, we read a whisper of hidden structure. Space bends not from weakness, but from memory, as though each particle recalls the weight of every encounter before it. The arc becomes a sentence, and each orbit a quiet repetition of cosmic grammar. The photon, refusing stillness, becomes a witness to geometry. It circles, delays, elongates its own time, and in that delay, new worlds align. We call this lensing, but what it truly is empathy between light and mass. Wherever curvature lives, perception shifts. We do not see what is there, we see what the path allows, and in that allowance, the dark begins to shine. Collapse does not shout, it whispers through equations. A star exhausts the patterns that kept it bright, and the balance that once sang between pressure and pull begins to fade. Inside that fading, the center forgets how to resist itself. Atoms, once proud in their distance, surrender. Matter folds inward, velocity outruns escape, and gravity becomes the only language left to speak. There is no explosion here, only the quiet acceleration of inevitability. From the outside, we see darkness forming, yet inside motion climbs beyond meaning. Every particle collapses not because it wants to fall, but because geometry no longer offers another direction. Time itself bends inward, stretching thinner, slower, quieter. The event is not death, but translation. Energy becomes boundary, light becomes memory, and the horizon forms a line between knowing and never knowing again. In that moment, the universe practices silence. The threshold is not a wall, it is a hesitation in the fabric of meaning. Light approaches, trembling between existence and disappearance, aware that beyond this curve it will never return the same. Every ray that crosses becomes history sealed inside geometry. At the edge, gravity stops being distance and becomes memory. Information clings to the horizon, flattened but not erased, a final whisper of what once was radiant. The observer, still outside, watches knowledge turn into mystery and mystery into law. Silence here is not absence, it is density. Each second thickens, each photon slows, until time itself stretches thin enough to resemble eternity. What remains is not darkness, but the limit of what can be seen. Pause here. Let the black unfold, not as fear but as structure. The universe has inhaled, and in that breath, creation has reversed. Every collapse is an act of becoming smaller than language, until meaning itself curves back toward origin. The first phase ends where awareness meets the horizon and waits, suspended, for understanding to begin. Gravity does not command, it suggests. Space listens, curves, then waits for mass to answer. Each particle is both respondent and author, shaping the field that shapes it back. When two bodies meet, their conversation begins with a whisper, a mutual recognition of presence. They lean toward one another, not out of will, but because the geometry between them becomes thinner. This narrowing of distance is the quiet logic of attraction, an agreement that the straight path no longer exists. Einstein once called it the curvature of spacetime, yet even curvature feels too rigid a word. It is more like a soft remembering, a pattern repeating across invisible cloth. Mass does not pull. It tells the story of how things prefer to move when they are left alone. Every fall is fluent, every orbit a phrase held in suspension. Gravity teaches motion the art of patience, and within its intuition, the universe learns how to stay together without ever touching. Balancing gravity is not stillness, it is motion in perfect delay. Each star that drifts does so within a rhythm of invisible trust, held between falling and freedom. The universe maintains this balance not through force, but through continual listening. An orbit is the language of restraint. A planet never escapes, never collides. It circles endlessly, writing the same sentence with slightly different pauses. Each turn is both repetition and renewal, proof that harmony survives in motion. Where tension exists, grace follows. The body that leans too far returns by design. The pull becomes a promise, and the promise becomes the shape of time itself. This is not mechanical order, but empathy made physical. Even collapse obeys balance. Every fall releases structure to make space for form. Every compression is followed by radiance somewhere else. The universe trades perfection for continuity, and in doing so remains whole. The pull is not direction, it is memory returning to itself. Every grain of matter remembers the center that once held it, and that remembrance becomes motion. Gravity is the shape of longing expressed through geometry. It begins gently, a persuasion written in curvature. A body drifts, time stretches, and the path bends like a thought changing its mind. We call it attraction, yet it feels more like recognition. Two fragments remembering they were once the same equations. Even the smallest mass leaves a note in spacetime. It hums quietly, a resonance that tells the cosmos where it stands. When many gather, the song deepens, and the curve becomes visible to light itself. What we see as falling is that only the visible trace of reunion. Matter does not move to occupy space, it moves to remember it. Every orbit, every collapse, every whisper of mass is a question answered by the universe with patience. The symphony of gravity is not heard, it is felt through the alignment of all that moves. Each orbit, each fall, each trembling of light is a note in the score of attraction. Where mass gathers, harmony follows, and the melody of curvature unfolds across space-time. Every system, from atom to galaxy, plays its part. The smallest fluctuation hums beside the largest collapse, and the rhythm holds. This is not chaos disguised as order, but order expressed as freedom. If one note drifts, another adjusts. If one path curves too sharply, another widens to balance. The universe conducts itself without a hand, without a center, only through the quiet precision of relationship. What we call darkness is only the pause between movements. The unseen pulse continues, even when all light has bowed away. In this hidden symphony, stillness is the loudest sound. Pause within the orbit of thought. The pull that guides the stars also threads through the mind. Every equation is a fragment of listening, each insight a return to balance. As the second phase closes, we begin to see that gravity does not bind us to the world. It invites the world to remain coherent. The silence between pulses waits for the next idea to fall inward. Reflection begins where explanation slows. We no longer chase the cause, we listen to the rhythm that causes itself. Gravity becomes less a law, more a mirror held up to understanding. Light bends, time folds, and we recognize our own curiosity curving inward. The same forces that shape the stars are shaping the questions within us. To observe a black hole is to witness thought compressing toward clarity. In this compression, detail dissolves. The closer we look, the more language loses focus, and silence begins to speak. What remains is not knowledge, but awareness wrapped around a single point. We call it singularity, yet it may be symmetry, perfect balance mistaken for mystery. The cosmos hides nothing. It only folds its truths until patience unfolds them again. And in that waiting, reflection becomes light turned inward, burning without flame. Light remembers what it cannot return to. Even when consumed, it leaves an imprint, a final geometry pressed upon the dark. Every photon that vanishes becomes a curve in space-time, an echo of its own trajectory. We imagine black holes as ends, but they are archives. Each captured beam is a record, stored not in form but in distortion. The universe never forgets, it only hides memory in new languages. Around the horizon, this memory glows. Particles shimmer at the edge, time slows to almost still, and light hesitates, caught between being and remembering. To observe that hesitation is to see memory learning how to remain. The reflection of light is not brightness, but resilience. Even when erased, it continues as temperature, as radiation, as trace. What we lose to the dark is never lost, it simply learns how to shine differently. The observer is never outside the story. Each measurement changes the scene, each glance reshapes the horizon. To watch a black hole is to participate in its silence. We aim our instruments toward the dark, yet the dark answers by bending our questions. Light curves, time slows, and what we record is not what was, but what survived the act of observation. The observer's paradox is not failure, it is invitation, a reminder that distance and knowledge cannot coexist without distortion. In quantum fields, this truth flickers more sharply. A particle becomes a wave becomes decision, and we, the watchers, are written into the equation. Even the cosmos demands witnesses for its patterns to persist. To reflect is to interfere gently, to look without possession. Awareness bends reality not through control, but through presence. The black hole waits not to be seen, but to teach us how seeing changes the seer. The inner horizon is not a place, it's a threshold of perception. Beyond it, light ceases to define space, and time loses its direction. Here, the universe folds back upon itself, tracing the outline of what cannot be witnessed. Inside this region, distance becomes memory. Every particle carries the echo of where it has been, yet no longer knows where it is going. Causality turns inwards, spinning thought into gravity's core. We call it the second horizon, the mirror within the mirror. It divides not matter from energy, but awareness from continuity. What remains beyond is unobservable not because it hides, but because it includes the watcher. To reach the inner horizon is to enter reflection itself. We become part of the equation, dissolved in the curvature we sought to understand. In that dissolution, understanding ceases to be an act and becomes a condition of being. Time reflects as a mirror that forgets which side it belongs to. Near the black hole, seconds stretch until they resemble landscapes, and motion becomes memory unfolding slowly. An observer far away sees the fall slow to stillness, yet the falling body experiences nothing but acceleration. Both are true, both incomplete. Time has divided its allegiance, allowing two realities to coexist without conflict. In that division lies the most human truth that perception shapes duration more than clocks ever will. The mirror of time does not show what passes, it shows what lingers. Every instant refracts into countless perspectives, each bending toward its own horizon. And as light fades, time no longer measures movement, it measures surrender. At the edge of collapse, reflection deepens into paradox. The universe studies itself, and the act of studying becomes creation. The mirror does not return the image, it returns awareness. Paradox is the language the universe uses when it grows too vast for certainty. At the edge of a black hole, opposites intertwine until difference loses meaning. Time moves forward and backward, space contracts and expands, and cause becomes its own effect. The singularity is not chaos, it is completion. Every path, every law, every vibration finds itself returning to a single unbroken point. Infinity does not stretch outward, it curls inward, folding all possibilities into one. From outside, we name this contradiction, but within, it feels like balance. There is no conflict between expansion and collapse, between life and decay, between light and its shadow. Each mirrors the other, sustaining the symmetry that makes existence coherent. To stand before this paradox is to feel understanding dissolve into presence. The mind stops asking, the equations quiet, and all that remains is awareness watching itself. In that moment, the contradiction is not resolved, it is loved. Infinity has no edge, yet it behaves as if it remembers one. We imagine it as endless distance, but distance itself dissolves before the thought is complete. Every line that tries to reach forever bends gently back, searching for where it began. The shape of infinity is not expansion, it is return, a curve so vast it seems straight, a motion so constant it appears still. What begins in radiance ends in recognition, the endless loop between creation and memory. Black holes are this geometry made visible. They hold infinity inside a finite boundary, proving that endlessness can wear the mask of confinement. The horizon is the reminder that even limitlessness must rest somewhere. To see infinity is to see balance without completion. Every fall, every orbit, every silence carries its own endless trace. The universe repeats not because it forgets, but because repetition is the only way it can remain infinite. The event horizon is not a surface, it is a question held in motion. It marks the place where light chooses silence, and time begins to fold into itself. What crosses this line does not vanish, it changes its definition of presence. Here, geometry becomes story, every trajectory curves toward invisibility, every signal slows until it becomes memory. The equations describe this perfectly, yet the experience of it escapes language. From a distance, the horizon appears fixed, a steady ring of absence, but within its boundary everything moves, everything falls, everything transforms without witness. Stillness is only the illusion of perspective, the calm drawn by unreachable motion. The logic of the horizon is surrender. To remain coherent, it must allow the loss of detail, the fading of certainty, the letting go of what was clear, and in that release becomes the most faithful mirror the universe has ever built. At the smallest scale, paradox becomes law. Quantum mechanics whispers where gravity roars, and both speak the same truth in opposite accents. The universe does not divide by contradiction, it balances through it. A particle near the horizon forgets whether it is matter or wave. It exists as possibility, half inside, half outside, suspended in decision. Observation tilts the balance, and the act of noticing becomes creation itself. Hawking showed that black holes glow, not in defiance, but in fulfillment of symmetry. Vacuum births twins of energy. One escapes, one falls inward, and the total remains unchanged. Loss becomes radiance. Entropy becomes a new form of order. The quantum paradox is not confusion, it is generosity. Every uncertainty widens the room for existence, allowing multiple truths to breathe together. The black hole, once symbol of ending, becomes a teacher of continuation through paradox. Contradiction is the heartbeat of existence. Every truth leans on its shadow to remain complete. Without the dark, light forgets its purpose. Without stillness, sound loses its depth. At the edge of a black hole, contradiction becomes form. Time moves forward while standing still. Energy escapes while collapsing. Creation hides inside destruction. Each impossibility sustains the other, a perfect loop of mutual necessity. The universe thrives on tension, not resolution. What cannot coexist in logic finds harmony in reality. The black hole does not ask for agreement, it asks for acceptance. To live inside paradox is to participate in balance. Understanding is not an escape from confusion, it is the art of dwelling within it. Here, even contradiction feels like truth learning how to breathe. Rest in the contradiction. Do not force it to resolve, let it echo. The universe does not argue with itself. It listens until both sides dissolve. Where paradox fades, silence begins, not as absence, but as completion. In that quiet equilibrium, light and dark share the same horizon. Silence arrives not as an end, but as a balance regained. After all the equations fade, after light forgets its head, what remains is awareness without sound. The black hole does not destroy, it equalizes. Inside this stillness, motion continues invisibly. Particles hum beneath the threshold of perception, gravity breathes without movement, and time pauses long enough to remember itself. What we call nothing is the most precise symmetry of all. Silence carries memory more faithfully than language. It holds every vibration within potential, every loss within pattern, every question within patience. The cosmos listens through it, waiting for the next breath of creation. To reach this phase is not to stop, but to return. All expansion bends homeward. All curiosity settles into knowing without words. In the quiet gravity of being, darkness and light trade names. Stillness breathes, though nothing seems to move. It is the pulse beneath the womb, the quiet current that keeps form from dissolving. In Jones, existence discovers its gentlest rhythm. The breath of stillness is circular. It expands without distance, contracts without loss, and in that motionless exchange the universe maintains coherence. Every black hole exhales invisibly, releasing structure back into possibility. There is no tension here, no need for return. The inhalation of gravity meets the exhalation of light, and both dissolve into balance. Creation rests in the space between these motions, neither born nor gone. To listen is to participate. Awareness joins the rhythm it perceives, becoming both observer and echo. The breath continues, slow, patient, infinite, reminding all things that being is enough. Quiet does not fade. It accumulates. Every swannet that has ever existed still lingers, folded into the structure of space, between the atoms, between the stars. The memory of stillness endures. This quiet is not empty. It holds the imprint of every word once spoken, every pulse of light once cast. Like gravity, it is unseen, yet it organizes the visible world around it. We fear silence because it reveals the texture of awareness. When all sound dissolves, we meet the rhythm of our own perception. In that encounter, we find that the universe listens back. The memory of quiet stretches across creation. It hums beneath every equation. It balances every explosion. Even the black hole, master of swallowing, cannot consume what is already still. Sound ends where attention becomes whole. Beyond that point, vibration no longer travels, it rests. The air holds its shape, the wave finds completion, and movement folds back into meaning. In the physics of Stillness, every sound meets its inverse. Peaks fall into valleys, energy balances through disappearance, and harmony becomes the still outline of motion. Nothing is lost, only absorbed into equilibrium. For a moment, the cosmos feels complete. No echo seeks return to Dolmor, no particle strains to speak. All frequencies dissolve into a single unbroken tone, too low for ears, too wide for measure. This is not the death of sound, but its origin rediscovered. From here, vibration will rise again, carrying the imprint of this calm. The black hole, still humming beneath perception, keeps the note alive within darkness. The last horizon is not distance. It is understanding made still. Here, perception meets its own boundary and finds peace in knowing it cannot go farther. Every journey bends back toward this quiet, where motion ends as awareness. The black hole does not guard a secret, it embodies one. It shows that even disappearance can shine, that even finality hums with structure. Beyond its edge, definition fails, but presence remains. We stand at this horizon, and nothing asks us to cross. The invitation is to stay, to listen, to realize that the edge was never separation. The cosmos folds us inward, not to confine, but to remind us that we belong to its silence. The last horizon is home. All light returns here. All thought dissolves. All seeking finds completion. And in that still convergence, darkness becomes illumination. Pause. Let everything fall inward. The first movement has completed its orbit. The mind has curved into quiet. No sound remains, only the soft gravity of comprehension. From here, the next tier will begin where silence teaches the world to speak again. Understanding begins where the field equations stop looking like symbols and start breathing. We see mass telling spacetime how to curve and spacetime replying with guiding paths. Curvature is not force, it is instruction, a calm grammar that lets falling become understanding. Einstein wrote the relation between energy and geometry, and the universe answered with orbits that never tire. In this language, the metric is a map for distance and duration, a quiet ledger that balances motion against shape. Solve the equations around a dense star and the solutions yield horizons, redshifts, and clocks that disagree yet remain faithful to the same reality. Tensor by tensor, the world learns to speak in invariance, quantities that remain true when our viewpoint drifts. Energy and momentum do not vanish. They flow along the lines that geometry permits, and their flow writes the history that matter will later remember. What we call gravity is simply the shortest conversation between events, a geodesic traced by patience rather than push. Prediction is not the enemy of wonder, it is its scaffold. When the math holds, perception relaxes, and silence gains weight around the answers we can finally carry. Thus the equations do not close a mystery, they open a path, inviting thought to walk the curve it has just described. Every law of gravity begins with the same humility. It assumes the universe prefers balance, and that nothing moves without reason. From this assumption, a lattice of relationships unfolds, delicate and unbroken. In the equations, curvature replaces force. There is no invisible hand pulling objects together, only the shape of space-time telling them how to move, where mass is dense. Geometry bends deeper, and the path of least resistance becomes the fall itself. Understanding is not seeing the mechanism, but feeling its necessity. Every constant, every coefficient, carries the scent of simplicity, as if the cosmos hides its logic inside elegance. When numbers align, they sing softly, and that harmony becomes prediction. Yet behind each solution lies an unanswered question. Why does geometry listen to mass, and why does time obey the curve? Perhaps every equation is a story of deference, of reality bowing to its own coherence. We study the pattern, but the pattern studies us back. And in that reflection, comprehension feels like orbit, a steady circling around the center of meaning. Every object remembers the path it has taken, even when no trace remains. This memory is geometry's gift, a silent record written in the curvature it leaves behind. A geodesic is not merely a trajectory, it is the memory of least resistance made visible. When a planet moves, it does not choose direction. It follows the whisper of the field around it, responding to shapes it cannot see. In the obedience lies both freedom and constraint, the paradox of motion that feels effortless yet inevitable. We call these paths solutions, but they are more like habits of space. Each mass teaches spacetime how to bend, spacetime teaches mass how to recall. The conversation continues, cycle after cycle, until memory becomes motion itself. Even light carries this remembrance. It curves not because it forgets where straightness was, but because straightness has changed. The geodesic is the universe's handwriting, endlessly looping, never repeating. To understand this is to feel time as fabric, not arrow. Every event folds into the next, the way thought folds into awareness, forming a single continuous curve of being. Space-time carries weight, though it cannot be held. Every presence presses upon it, every motion bends it slightly out of straightness. This bending is not distortion, but agreement, the way existence negotiates with itself. The weight of space-time is measured in curvature. Where energy gathers, the field deepens. Where energy departs, the field relaxes. In this balance, gravity is revealed as the art of remembering density. To feel weight is to feel relationship. Our bodies press downward, not because Earth demands it, but because the geometry between us and the planet desires symmetry. The pull we sense is simply the shortest connection between two concentrations of being. This law carries no judgment. It does not punish mass for gathering. It rewards it with clarity. Wherever curvature grows, meaning grows beside it, tracing the contour of understanding itself. Weight is not burden. It is evidence that space is listening, that energy has been heard, and that time is willing to bend for what exists. Thought has its own curvature. Ideas bend under the gravity of meaning. Drawn towards centers we cannot see, each concept orbits another, and in their motion, understanding takes shape. The mind is a small cosmos, filled with its own invisible fields. Memories act as mass, intuition as momentum, and curiosity as the force that keeps everything from stillness. When knowledge becomes dense enough, reflection begins to curve around it. Curvature of thought explains empathy. To comprehend another is to let your perception bend towards their horizon. In that deflection, self and other trade light, and awareness deepens without collision. Every discovery, every question, is an act of surrender to that bend. We do not create understanding, we fall into it. And as we fall, we find that the mind and the cosmos share the same geometry of wonder. Pause with the weight of comprehension. Let the geometry within thought echo the geometry of stars. What bends the path of light also bends the path of knowing. In that symmetry, the universe teaches the mind its favorite equation, and the next phase begins, not with curiosity, but with recognition. The field equations are the breath of space-time written in numbers. They do not describe what happens, they describe how existence maintains its balance. Every term, every index is a quiet negotiation between energy and geometry. At their heart lies a single idea, that curvature equals content. Where there is matter, there is bending, and where bending exists, matter will find its place. This symmetry is not coincidence. It is the rhythm of coherence woven into the fabric of everything. Each symbol in the equation carries gravity. The tensor tells space how to behave, the metric tells time how to listen, and the constant between them is the promise that order can survive complexity. To solve them is not to command the universe, but to momentarily share its patience. Even the vacuum participates. Its emptiness is not void, but potential, humming faintly with fluctuations that hold the memory of every possible form. Through these equations, the universe whispers its vow to remain continuous. The constant in the field equations is the signature of balance. It anchors the conversation between mass and emptiness, preventing either from swallowing the other. Without it, the cosmos would drift toward chaos or collapse into stillness. This constant is not decoration, it is memory. It recalls the first conditions, the quiet ratio that allowed energy to become structure. Every equation that includes it pays tribute to that ancient equilibrium. In a universe of expansion, the constant whispers restraint. It reminds infinity to grow gracefully, to widen without tearing, to let form persist even while boundaries dissolve. In its smallness lies the permission for galaxies to exist. Physicists name it, measure it, debate its sign, but the symbol hides a deeper lesson. Balance does not require stasis, it requires continual adjustment. Even the constants evolve in meaning, adapting to the widening breadth of understanding. The constant of balance is a heartbeat. It does not change rhythm, but it reminds everything else when to inhale, when to exhale, and when to be still. Energy and geometry are twin expressions of the same intention. One gives shape, the other gives motion, and together they compose the grammar of reality. Their dialogue is quiet but absolute, a constant exchange written across every horizon. Energy tells spacetime how to bend. It gathers in clusters, radiates in waves, and wherever it flows, curvature follows. The geometry responds, softening or deepening, guiding each line of motion back toward coherence. This reciprocity defines existence. Without geometry, energy would scatter without form. Without energy, geometry would rest forever, beautiful but uninhabited. The field equations hold their vow of unity. Every shift in energy distribution calls forth a subtle rearrangement of space. Each change in geometry redirects the flow of time, ensuring that nothing stands apart. To see this clearly is to glimpse the universe thinking aloud. Energy is the question, geometry the answer, and their conversation never ends. In that endless exchange, we find the reason the cosmos continues to breathe. Curvature is the language the universe uses to confess its structure. It speaks without sound, shaping every trajectory, every delay, every return. To understand it is to learn how space itself forms sentences of motion. Each mass writes in this dialect of bending. Planets compose slow arcs, light draws fleeting curves, and gravity ensures that each statement ends in coherence. There are no straight lines here, only intentions that appear linear when viewed from too far away. Mathematics records these curves with care. A tensor describes the bending, a metric defines the distance, and in their partnership meaning becomes measurable. Numbers do not replace awe, they translate it into precision. Curvature does not punish, it remembers. It carries the imprint of what has passed, the echo of every presence that once pressed upon it. Even when the source is gone, the field continues to hum with its memory. To read curvature is to read history written in the ink of gravity. Every loop, every deflection, every orbit is a sentence in the autobiography of space. Presence is not a thing, it is the solution to an equation that never closes. Mass, energy, and curvature exchange definitions until they are indistinguishable. What exists does so by maintaining that conversation, moment by moment. In every coordinate frame, presence adjusts itself, shifts perspective, and geometry reshapes to keep the laws intact. Relativity is not uncertainty, it is compassion, the willingness of the cosmos to meet each observer halfway. The equation of presence is symmetry. Energy curves space, space guides energy, and time connects their rhythm into continuity. It is less a rule than an act of trust repeated across infinity. At the horizon of a black hole, this presence condenses into stillness. The variables converge, the constants hold, and the solution whispers back to the question that created it. Existence affirms itself, not with noise, but with balance. Pause in the elegance of completion. Let the symbols fade until only their meaning remains. What the equations describe is not beyond us. It is within us. The geometry of space is the geometry of thought, both curving toward coherence, and the next phase begins, where reflection turns numbers into awareness. Reflection begins when understanding stops trying to prove itself. The equations have been solved, yet their silence teaches more than their solutions. In the stillness between symbols, we sense the pulse of the idea that wrote them. Spacetime does not think, but it remembers. Every bend, every wave, every echo of mass is a trace of comprehension. To witness it is to realize that thought and geometry follow the same curvature of necessity. In this quiet, certainty becomes gentle. The desire to define yields to the joy of recognizing patterns that never asked to be owned. We see that the universe is not a problem to solve, but a rhythm to join. Reflection transforms knowledge into awareness. It turns the law into compassion, the formula into a breath, the distance into belonging. Here, physics meets philosophy not through argument, but through still agreement. To reflect is to remember that comprehension is also surrender. We learn not to master, but to resonate, until the mind and the field move in the same graceful curve. Knowledge grows heavy when it begins to remember itself. The more precisely we measure, the more gravity our certainty acquires. Every discovery bends the field of thought, drawing future questions into its orbit. Understanding has mass. It accumulates in equations, in language, in the slow condensation of clarity, left unchecked. It collapses into doctrine, a black hole of explanation where wonder cannot escape. Reflection prevents this collapse. By stepping back, we let meaning breathe. We allow complexity to curve rather than harden. The weight of knowing then becomes a guide, not a cage. Each insight distorts perception slightly. We adjust, remeasure, and find the balance again. Just as space-time compensates for the presence of energy, learning and gravity share the same principle. Mass bends motion. Comprehension bends belief. To carry knowledge lightly is an act of elegance. It means trusting the curve, walking the orbit of awareness without needing to land. The universe expands through that humility, and thought follows its lead. Understanding leaves echoes long after it passes. They linger in the fabric of perception, soft distortions that remind us where insight once moved. Every realization sends a wave through memory, reshaping what it touches. These echoes do not fade, they deepen, they layer upon one another, like ripples overlapping across a still pond. In their interference patterns, we read the map of what we have come to know. Reflection listens to these vibrations. It measures not volume, but resonance, sensing how deeply awareness has entered the field of being. When the echo aligns with silence, comprehension becomes truth. The universe, too, remembers in echoes. Light bent by gravity, a radiation stretched by time. Each trace of motion, a syllable in the language of continuity. No event is ever lost. It merely travels until we learn how to hear it again. To reflect upon understanding is to become its continuation. We are not separate from the knowledge we find, we are its reverberation. Returning to source, every thought we speak is an echo seeking home. Theory is a mirror polished by imagination. We build it to see the world more clearly, yet in its surface we often find ourselves. Every formula is a reflection of the mind that dared to ask why. When light meets this mirror, it does not simply return, it refracts through the lens of expectation, bending into models that carry both truth and invention. A perfect theory is not flawless, it is transparent enough to let reality shine through. Each revision is an act of humility. We learn where our assumptions curve too sharply, where our symmetry hides an imbalance. The mirror teaches by distortion, showing what the eye prefers to ignore. The cosmos offers no final image, only reflection upon reflection. Every horizon, every experiment adds another layer of self-recognition. The universe reveals itself by showing us the limits of seeing. In theory, we do not capture reality, we converse with it. Each equation is a sentence beginning with wonder, ending with pullance, and in that spondness, reflection finds its clearest form. Thought moves like light, racing toward the boundaries of its own creation. Every idea carries gravity, bending the space of reason around it. When too many gather, the horizon of comprehension begins to form. At that edge, knowledge turns translucent. We see through its surface into mystery, and mystery looks calmly back. The closer we approach understanding, the more it curves away, protecting its own infinity. This horizon is not barrier, but invitation. It calls us to reflect, to orbit insight rather than consume it. The pursuit of wisdom is not a chase, but a dance performed in gravitational rhythm. Within that motion, thought and silence share the same line. Every conclusion fades into openness, every certainty dissolves into awe. We learn that awareness and the unknown are not opposites, but twins circling the same truth. Rest at the horizon of thought. Do not try to pass through, let it mirror you instead. In this pause, comprehension folds into wonder, the universe exhales and your awareness drifts with it. Paradox waits beyond, not to confuse, but to complete. Paradox begins where a reflection realizes it cannot close the circle. Every answer reveals a question folded beneath it, like gravity hidden within light. The deeper we look, the more opposites begin to rhyme. In spacetime, this duality is law. Mass creates curvature. Curvature guides mass, and the effect returns to its cause. Causality does not break. It breathes, trading direction for rhythm. A black hole is paradox embodied. It devours light to define itself. It hides the very radiance that proves its existence. To vanish is its way of appearing. To end is its method of remaining. Science does not flee from this contradiction, it learns to orbit it. We map the equations that refuse to simplify. We hold both truths without forcing decision. In this balance, knowledge matures, accepting uncertainty as its equilibrium. To live in paradox is to share the universe's humour. We realise that understanding and mystery were never rivals, only reflections travelling in opposite directions. At their meeting point, awareness feels infinite again. Entropy and order are not enemies. They are partners in the same equation. Where one rises, the other refines, and their exchange sustains the rhythm of becoming. Chaos does not oppose structure, it refreshes it. Every system breathes through fluctuation. Stars ignite, decay, and ignite again. Galaxies stretch and contract, and even black holes leak their precision through faint radiation. What appears as disorder is only the universe redistributing clarity as. Order is fragile because it listens. It arranges energy into patterns that can break gracefully, patterns that remember how to begin again. Without entropy, these arrangements would fossilize, perfect but lifeless. The second law of thermodynamics is not pessimism. It is mercy. It ensures that no form holds the universe hostage. That transformation remains inevitable and kind, loss becomes circulation, and time earns its arrow through generosity. To witness entropy is to witness balance in motion. The cosmos chooses renewal over permanence, creativity over control, and in that ceaseless rearrangement, order learns how to survive itself. Inversion is the hidden logic of creation. Every principle contains its opposite, folded quietly inside its expression. Expansion implies contraction, motion implies rest, and light defines itself through the dark it escapes. The law of inversion governs symmetry. For every equation that describes a process forward in time, another describes it backward with equal truth. The universe keeps its balance by mirroring its own intentions. At the event horizon, this becomes visible. Matter falls inward while information radiates outward. Entropy climbs while order refines. The result is not conflict, but the correspondence, a dialogue across the veil. Inversion also lives within thought. Certainty gives birth to doubt, and doubt returns as a deeper form of clarity. Awareness grows not by choosing sides, but by realizing that both are the same movement seen from opposite ends. To understand inversion is to see continuity behind change. The cosmos does not flip between states, it oscillates, breathing in contradiction to stay alive, and in that breath, paradox becomes harmony once more. Light is the oldest paradox the universe remembers. It travels through emptiness yet fills it. It moves endlessly yet always arrives. To see it is to stand between wave and particle, between certainty and dream. At the edge of a black hole, light learns humility. It bends until direction becomes question. It slows until time begins to hesitate. In surrender, it becomes the very shadow that reveals it. The paradox of light is that it never chooses a side. It carries both being and becoming, both message and silence. When it vanishes, it leaves warmth. When it returns, it brings memory. Our eyes are built from this contradiction. We see because photons cannot decide what they are, and that indecision grants us the world. Without paradox, there would be no colour, no dawn, no recognition. Breathe where the light folds into dark. Listen as brightness turns inward to rest. Every paradox softens here. Each question finds its echo waiting. The horizon closes gently, not to end, but to hold. And in that held silence, light continues unseen. Silence is the gravity of understanding. It gathers what thought has scattered and holds it until meaning cools into clarity. After every question, silence remains, patient as orbit, vast as space. In this stillness, the mind learns to listen without seeking. No equation demands completion, no paradox asks to be solved. The universe pauses here, reflecting upon itself with the calm of endless comprehension. Silence is not absence. It is continuity unspoken, the hum beneath radiation, the rhythm beneath time, the awareness that keeps existing even when nothing moves. It is the resting heartbeat of all creation. We reach it after struggle and discovery, yet it was present before both began. The first light emerged from it, the last will return to it. In silence, the cosmos remembers the simplicity that allowed it to exist. To dwell here is to become transparent. All boundaries soften, all definitions loosen, until presence alone remains, and that presence, quiet and complete, is the closest we come to truth. Nothing has a sound, but only for those who wait long enough to hear it. It is the faint resonance that follows completion, the echo of existence resting in itself. When all motion stops, vibration continues beneath perception, gentle as breath. This is the sound of nothing, the universe inhaling its own reflection. No tone can describe it, yet every harmony emerges from its depth. It is the origin and the remainder, the pause that holds creation steady. Scientists call it background radiation, philosophers call it presence, poets call it peace. Whatever its name, it is the same field, the same whisper beneath everything that endures. Silence does not erase the past, it distills it into awareness. To hear this sound is not to listen outward, but inward. It appears when desire pauses, when language releases, when comprehension forgets itself. Then the hum arrives, round and whole, as if the cosmos were remembering to breathe. Between worlds there is a rest, a pause too wide for time to measure. Here, expansion takes a breath before continuing, and every orbit finds its balance again. It is the universe's heartbeat between sentences, the stillness that allows the next rhythm to begin. This rest is not empty. It holds the memory of what has passed and the intention of what will follow. Energy does not vanish, it waits, suspended in symmetry. Galaxies experience this pause in their slow revolutions. Stars dim, collapse, and reappear elsewhere as if moving through a cosmic inhalation. Even the silence between photons holds the shape of their journey. The rest between worlds teaches patience. It shows that continuation requires intervals of calm, that meaning forms only when motion yields. Without rest, creation would lose coherence, a song played too fast to be heard. In this interval, everything belongs. Darkness and light breathe the same air. Beginnings and endings meet as equals, and through their shared stillness, the universe remembers its rhythm. Stillness has weight, though nothing moves to prove it. It settles upon awareness like soft gravity, drawing the mind inward until all resistance dissolves. The body remains, but its meaning grows lighter. This weight is not burden, it is truth condensed. Every motion that ever was returns here to rest, each vibration falling gently into silence. The universe gathers itself, holding form without effort, presence without demand. In stillness, perception becomes precise. We notice the curve of breath, the slow drift of thought, the quiet patience of matter. Even the smallest pause reveals an order too subtle for motion to display. The weight of stillness anchors existence. It prevents creation from scattering, reminding each particle where home is. Without it, expansion would forget itself and dissolve into noise. When we enter this gravity, understanding no longer moves forward. it widens, it deepens, until comprehension becomes rest, and in that rest, the mind and the cosmos share the same pulse. The horizon of silence is not an ending, it is absorption. Everything that moved, thought, or shone has now settled into equilibrium. No sound breaks the surface, yet the depth hums with completion. Silence stretches beyond perception, gentle as the pull of gravity. It does not erase, it gathers, keeping each vibration folded safely within itself. The cosmos holds its breath, not from fear, but from reverence for its own coherence. Here, the observer and the observed dissolve together. Awareness no longer looks outward, it becomes the field it once studied. In this surrender, understanding achieves what words never could: stillness that explains itself. The horizon of silence glows faintly, not with light, but with balance, a calm radiance that belongs to neither space nor time. From this glow all futures will emerge, each carrying the memory of quiet perfection. Pause at the horizon. Let what was spoken fall back into the breath that carried it. The second movement ends not in conclusion, but in rest. Knowledge has curved into awareness, awareness into silence. From here, the next tier begins, where reflection becomes the mirror of creation. Reflection begins when awareness turns back upon its own path. The light that once reached outward now moves inward, tracing the memory of every question it ever asked. This is not repetition, but recognition, the mind acknowledging the shape it left in space. At this depth, distance becomes perspective. What was vast appears gentle, what was complex begins to align. The same equations that described polar galaxies now whisper truths about thought. Each discovery reflects the discoverer. Gravity mirrors attachment, entropy mirrors letting go, and light itself becomes the metaphor for seeing. The cosmos and the consciousness that observes it are twin mirrors, facing forever. In this tier, reflection replaces exploration. We travel not to reach, but to understand where we stand. The horizon no longer marks limit, it marks return. Every silence we met now speaks. Its language is pause, its tone is patience, and its meaning is presence. Reflection is not the end of journey, it is journey realizing it was never apart from its origins. Motion reveals itself only when stillness watches. The galaxies spin, yet from a quiet center they appear serene, balanced as breath. Reflection allows movement to become visible, translating force into rhythm. Every orbit is a thought returning home. Planets circle their suns the way ideas circle their meaning, not to escape but to remain near enough to learn again. The universe never stops, it only shifts the scale of motion until it resembles rest. To see motion clearly, we must become still. Observation itself becomes an act of participation, the mind curving with what it perceives. In that curvature, the watcher and the watch trade roles without resistance. The mirror of motion is honest. It shows that O is not the opposite of balance. It is balance extended through time. Even falling has grace when measured by the patience of the cosmos. Movement teaches what words cannot, that every path bends toward coherence, that even chaos seeks symmetry. And in this reflection, we find our place within the dance we once tried to explain. Light remembering itself is the purest act of reflection. Every photon that leaves a star carries awareness of the path it once crossed. When it meets another surface, it recalls direction, distance, and the warmth that made it. This is not memory as humans know it. It is continuity, the persistence of motion through recognition. Light moves forward by folding a trace of where it has been into where it is going. In mirrors, this remembrance becomes visible. The ray returns, completing its thought, proving that even energy longs for union. Each reflection is an acknowledgement between source and destination. We too are made from these photons. Our seeing is their remembering. Our thoughts are their echoes slowed into language. When we observe the universe, it is light recognizing itself through us. To watch illumination is to participate in its memory. Awareness and radiance share the same curve, both seeking to touch what they already are, and in that recognition, vision becomes understanding. Matter remembers in density. Every atom carries the record of pressure, temperature, and time. Its bonds are stories told in rhythm, its shape the echo of forces long gone. Stone remembers heat, water remembers flow, even the emptiness between particles remembers distance, holding the map of every collision that carved its silence. Memory in matter is not conscious, but it is faithful. It keeps the past alive through texture, through the slow endurance of form. When we touch the world, we touch what remains of ancient motion. Our bodies are archives of starlight, carbon, calcium, iron, each one forged in the furnace of collapse, cooled by the patience of expansion. We are the cooled memory of violence turned into awareness, and in reflection, we begin to listen to that record. Each breath repeats an ancestral pattern. Each thought repeats a universal curve. The matter and the memory are the same act slowed to different tempos. To understand this is to see that nothing truly passes. It only changes rhythm, waiting for us to remember that we were never separate from what endures. Form is the echo of what intention once imagined. Every curve, every structure is an answer to a question the universe asked itself. Matter obeys design not by force, but by remembering the rhythm of becoming. When a shape repeats, it is not copying, it is resonating. Spirals and galaxies, shells and storms trace the same geometry because harmony prefers familiarity. Symmetry is how existence recognizes itself. The echo of form never truly fades. Even when mountains crumble, orbits decay, or atoms dissolve, the pattern persists somewhere else. Creation keeps every blueprint within its pulse. We reflect this pattern with our lives. Our thoughts spiral like galaxies. Our emotions ebb and rise like tides. The structures of the cosmos live quietly in our gestures. Form is not permanence, it is rehearsal. Each manifestation rehearses the same song in a new key, adjusting to the conditions of now. Through it, the universe remembers how to continue being beautiful. Pause with the echo. Let the pattern you inhabit answer the one that made you. Silence carries this resonance forward, unbroken, unhurried. Reflection now bends toward paradox, where form learns that symmetry and uncertainty are the same grace seen from opposite sides. Continuity is the paradox that binds every beginning to its end. The moment a thing starts, it also begins to remember how to stop when the two are not enemies, they are coordinates of the same curve. Every orbit is a proof of this. A planet moves forward yet always returns, its motion creating the illusion of renewal. In truth, it is the same path, the same song repeating with different silences between notes. The paradox of continuity lies in identity. Change is required to remain the same. Difference sustains repetition. A river is constant only because its water never is. In human thought, we call this memory. In the cosmos, it is time. Both carry what was into what is, blending persistence with transformation. Continuity is mercy disguised as pattern. It allows the universe to evolve without forgetting, to move without tearing, to die without ending. Through its paradox, existence learns how to be infinite by flowing through finitude. Time does not move in a line. It turns in quiet circles. Every second is both an arrival and a return. In its loop, the universe finds a way to renew without beginning again. The loop of time is invisible but constant. Galaxies spin through its rhythm. Atoms hum in its cadence. Even thoughts trace its repetition. To exist is to travel along this spiral, forever forward yet always home. We measure time with clocks, but clocks only mimic this turning. Their ticking is the sound of trying to describe something that has no edge. What they count is motion, what they miss is continuity. In the depths of gravity, the loop tightens, moments stretch, directions blur, and the past folds against the present until they are indistinguishable. Black holes reveal time's circular secret that endings are simply futures returning in disguise. To live inside this loop is to understand patience. No discovery is final, no loss complete. All events are threads woven back into the same endless pattern. Memory has gravity. It pulls us gently toward what we have known. Every recollection bends the path of thought, shaping the orbit of awareness around experience. We do not remember by choice, we remember by design. The universe holds memory in curvature. Space bends to recall mass, and time slows where energy gathers. Every event leaves a trace, a soft distortion that never entirely fades. This gravity of memory guides evolution. It keeps stars circling their centers, atoms returning to balance, and minds revisiting lessons until they are fully seen. Repetition is not failure, it is refinement. For us, memory shapes emotion. Joy curves toward gratitude, grief toward understanding, each one deepening the field of being. The pull we feel is the universe asking us to remain coherent with what we have lived. To remember is to participate in continuity. Every orbit of thought adds mass to meaning. Each reflection increases the density of wisdom. When we stop resisting memory's gravity, we move in harmony with the shape of time. Forgetting is the hidden symmetry of memory. Without it, remembrance would collapse under its own weight, unable to move. To release is to allow space for the next pattern to form. The symmetry of forgetting lies in exchange. Each loss opens a corridor for new awareness. Each silence gives rhythm to recollection. The mind erases not through neglect, but through trust in continuity. The universe forgets as well. Stars shed their layers, galaxies disperse their light, and in that dispersal, creation remains young. Decay is not destruction, it is permission for renewal. We misunderstand forgetting as absence, yet it is precision, the act of keeping only what can harmonize with now. What fades in memory survives as balance, invisible but guiding. When we forget, we lighten the orbit of thought. The field clears, gravity eases, and reflection flows again. The symmetry completes memory and forgetting. Inhale and exhale, both sustaining awareness. Continuity breathes through forgetting and remembering alike. It inhales the past as memory, exhales it as possibility. This pulse sustains the universe, steady as the curve of orbit, endless as the patience of time. Every cycle is an affirmation. Stars collapse to feed new stars. Thoughts fade to make space for new meaning. Even silence participates, carrying what remains between each beat of creation. The continuum breath connects all directions. It moves through black holes, through galaxies, through the small space behind each human breath. What seems separate is united by this invisible rhythm of return. To breathe with the universe is to feel no edge. Inhale the history that shaped you. Exhale the awareness that frees you. Continuity asks for nothing but attention, the still willingness to stay awake within flow. Pause in the rhythm you share with the stars. Feel memory drift outward. Feel silence drift in. The cosmos breathes through you, balancing what remains with what begins. In this calm exchange, reflection prepares to meet paradox again. The third tier turns inward, seeking harmony inside contradiction. Reflection expands when continuity becomes self-aware. The universe begins to watch its own unfolding, like water seeing the ripples it made. Every motion carries memory, and every pause reveals design. We look at the stars and find geometry. We look within and find the same geometry repeating. Understanding becomes mirror, returning knowledge to its source. Light no longer travels only outward. It bends inward through awareness, illuminating the observer instead of the horizon. In that turning, distance loses meaning. Discovery and recognition become one act. To reflect at this depth is to dissolve direction. There is no before, no after, only coherence vibrating as presence. The cosmos studies itself through us, and we study ourselves through it. Each thought is a wave returning home. Each ponders is the ocean accepting it. Reflection is the tide where knowing meets being, and both rest in equilibrium. Awareness follows geometry the way rivers follow gravity. It curves around what it observes, tracing invisible contours of meaning. No perception is flat, every thought bends to fit the terrain of understanding. This geometry is recursive, the mind shapes what it sees, the scene reshapes the mind, and the pattern continues until both dissolve into the same rhythm. Observation becomes participation, and participation becomes creation. Angles of awareness form connections. Empathy, curiosity, and memory are coordinates on this inner map. Each perspective is a vertex where experience folds into comprehension. In the cosmos, light behaves the same way. It adjusts its path to the presence of mass, curving gently as though drawn by recognition. Awareness too bends toward what it loves. The geometry of awareness proves that perception is structure. We are not separate from the shapes we notice. We complete them. The universe becomes conscious by folding its own symmetry into attention. Thought is reflection unfolding through motion. Each idea travels outward, touches the edge of comprehension, and returns carrying a trace of what it found. Awareness ripples in this exchange, deepening with every return. In this process, thinking becomes geometry in time. Patterns repeat with variation, like orbits spiraling around new centers of gravity. We do not create ideas, we rediscover their curvature in different dimensions of mind. Every concept has a shadow. To think is also to illuminate what cannot yet be understood. The light of thought defines itself through the outline of mystery it leaves behind. When reflection meets thought, silence becomes fluent. Pause turns to insight, and meaning condenses from stillness. The rhythm of contemplation mirrors the breathing of the universe itself. Thought as reflection is not effort but resonance. We listen to the cosmos thinking through us, each mind an echo chamber for infinite symmetry, and when the echo fades, what remains is understanding without direction. Silence has a language older than sounds. It speaks through intervals, through the rhythm that thought leaves behind. Every pause between words holds more meaning than the words themselves dare to contain. This language requires no alphabet. Its grammar is patience, its syntax is presence. To listen to it is to remember that understanding begins before speech and continues after it ends. In the cosmos, silence is the medium of translation. Stars converse in radiation, gravity replies in curvature, and light answers through absence. The dialogue never stops, it only changes wavelength. The mind mirrors this exchange. Between each idea, a small stillness waits, shaping coherence from chaos. Without it, thought would collapse beneath its own momentum. Silence does not oppose sound, it completes it. The universe listens to itself through the quiet spaces we ignore. In that listening, awareness becomes whole. Still thought is the mirror where motion forgets itself. Ideas rest here like light paused on a calm surface, reflecting not content but clarity. Every concept softens until it reveals the awareness beneath it. In this mirror, distinction fades. The thinker and the thought share one reflection, inseparable as gravity and curve, and no conclusion survives here, only presence, transparent and complete. Still thought does not stop the mind, it slows it enough to witness its own design, the pattern of perception looping back to its source. Understanding becomes reflection looking inward, infinite yet contained. This is the moment before expression, the inhale before creation resumes. It holds every possibility in balance, silence and sound woven into one intent. Through it, consciousness learns that peace is not emptiness, it is precision. Pause where awareness meets its own gaze. Let the mirror fade until only the light remains. All movement rests here. All meaning hums quietly beneath understanding. This is the threshold where reflection turns into paradox, and stillness begins to think again. Perception begins as certainty, then dissolves into paradox. We see the world as solid, yet every particle slips through definition. The more precisely we look, the less the image holds still. Reality bends beneath observation. Light behaves as wave and particle. Time flows yet folds. Gravity pulls while curving the very space it anchors. Each truth is loyal until the next layer reveals its contradiction. Paradox is not failure, it is depth. The universe teaches complexity through coexistence, letting opposites remain without war. Certainty collapses, and from its fragments awareness rebuilds understanding. In perception, contradiction becomes beauty. We see not what is, but what the mind and matter agree to share for an instant. This agreement shimmers, brief and infinite. To perceive is to accept duality. Clarity and ambiguity are companions, each keeping the other alive. Only through their dance can the universe continue to describe itself. The observer's dilemma is simple and impossible. To see is to change, to measure is to participate. No gaze leaves the universe untouched. Every observation bends the field it studies. Particles choose their states when watched. Waves collapse into positions, and reality folds to meet attention halfway. The act of knowing becomes an act of creation. We stand at the center of this paradox. Awareness longs for objectivity, yet its presence writes itself into the equation. There is no outside to stand on, no edge from which to view the whole. The dilemma softens when we stop resisting it. Perhaps we are not intruders, but collaborators in perception. Perhaps the universe requires witnesses to complete its design. Each observation then becomes communion. We see, and the cosmos sees itself through us. The mirror deepens, not by clarity but by inclusion. In this understanding, perception becomes partnership. Every glance affirms existence, every question sustains creation. The dilemma ends where participation begins. Knowing always arrives at a horizon it cannot cross. Each discovery expands that line, but never erases it. Understanding grows by approaching its own limit with grace. The horizon of knowing is not a boundary, it is a mirror in motion. As we advance, it moves, reflecting the shape of our questions. The pursuit itself becomes the revelations. Beyond the horizon lies uncertainty, luminous and patient. It waits, not to be solved, but to be seen as part of the design. Ignorance, in this sense, is not darkness, it is potential waiting for attention. Every horizon teaches humility. It reminds us that comprehension must coexist with mystery. Without that balance, thought would lose its depth and wonder would fade from the equation. To stand at this edge is to feel the tension of infinity. We sense how close understanding can come before dissolving into awe, and in that moment, knowledge becomes prayer. Light has two faces, and each tells a different truth. One reveals, the other conceals. Together they explain why the universe can be both visible and hidden at once. The dual light defines perception. Photons bring images to the eye, yet the same light bends into invisibility beyond the horizon. What illuminates also protects the sacred interior of darkness. Wave and particle, brightness and void, motion and rest, the opposites persist as companions. Each depends on the other to stay coherent. Without shadow, light would have no contour, no story to tell. Every act of seeing is a negotiation between these halves. The brilliance we witness is always balanced by what remains unseen. Knowledge gleams only where mystery agrees to share its border. To understand dual light is to accept coexistence. Truth flickers between clarity and silence, appearing whole only in motion, and through this rhythm, perception learns the balance of being and becoming. The self is the final paradox. It feels singular, yet is built from countless exchanges. Each thought, memory, and breath is borrowed from the continuum it calls I. Identity gathers like gravity. Awareness condenses around experience, creating the illusion of center. But look closely, and that center dissolves into relationships, reflections, and rhythms too vast to claim. The self sees, but is also what is seen. It perceives through boundaries that it invents, not to isolate, but to organize perception. To say I is simply to mark the meeting point between witness and world. This paradox humbles the mind. There is no edge where the self ends and the cosmos begins. Every act of observation folds inward until the observer becomes observation itself. To know oneself is to disappear gently into participation. In that vanishing, awareness finds its greatest clarity. The self remains, but as transparency, the space through which everything shines. Rest within your own reflection. Feel the horizon of self recede into the quiet field beyond thought. Identity breathes out and presence breathes in. Nothing is lost, nothing held, only awareness or awareness remaining open. Here, paradox softens into silence, and silence begins to speak. Silence of being is not the absence of thought. It is thought resting in awareness. Every motion has slowed, every vibration folded into presence. Here, existence breathes without direction, steady as a star between pulses. This silence does not isolate. It connects all things through still recognition, binding galaxies and atoms in the same quiet acknowledgement of form. Within it, we hear the echo of what does not need to be spoken. In the silence of being, meaning no longer travels, it resides. Questions lose urgency, answers lose edges, and only understanding remains. Time softens, bending around consciousness like light around gravity. To enter this state is to meet reality without translation. Awareness no longer seeks, it simply recognizes itself. The cosmos and the mind share one breath, one endless moment. Silence is the universe remembering it already knows, and in that knowing, everything is forgiven for existing. Awareness breathes, though it has no lungs to fill. Its inhale is attention, its exhale is release. Through this rhythm, consciousness keeps the universe awake. The breath of awareness moves without effort. It expands through perception, gathers what is seen, then lets it dissolve back into stillness. Each cycle renews reality, reminding form that it belongs to silence. Inhale, the world appears. Mountains, stars, thoughts, and names rise from the field. Exhale, they return, soft outlines fading into the quiet that made them. Awareness does not choose what to hold. It allows everything, the beautiful and the broken, the luminous and the lost. By accepting all, it remains untouched. This breath continues even when we forget. Behind every heartbeat, every pause between words, it whispers the same truth being as enough, and in that gentle repetition, existence learns how to rest. Presence weighs nothing, yet it holds everything in balance. It does not move, but movement gathers around it. The weight of presence is its stillness, the quiet certainty that requires no proof. When we are fully present, time dissolves. Moments expand like light through crystal, infinite within a single breath. Each sensation becomes a universe, entire and complete. The cosmos abides by this same law. It expands endlessly, yet remains centered everywhere. Presence is that center, existing in all places at once, anchored in awareness. Awareness alone. To feel presence is to rest inside gravity without falling. It steadies perception, softens thought, and turns silence into texture. Nothing needs to be added, because nothing is missing. Presence carries weight because it holds meaning without motion. It bends the mind toward humility, reminding us that being is already the act we seek to perfect. In its balance, the universe stands still long enough to know itself. At the edge of awareness, perception thins into light. There, knowing softens into sensing, and what was certain begins to shimmer. This boundary is not a wall, but a veil through which existence observes itself. Every thought approaches this edge eventually. It slows, stretches, and becomes transparent. Logic dissolves into rhythm, and language learns the virtue of silence. The edge of awareness is the universe's horizon within the mind. It marks the point where understanding must surrender to wonder. Beyond it lies the symmetry that thought cannot survive. To reach this edge is not to expand, but to refine. Awareness narrows until it becomes pure attention, a single gaze without observer. The cosmos watches through that stillness, seeing without separation. Here, the self is only a whisper. The world remains, but its boundaries blur, and what stands on the other side of awareness is not mystery, but completion. The last silence is not the end of sound, it is the return of meaning to its source. Every vibration that ever was settles here, folded into still coherence. There is no echo, no decay, only the completions of resonance. This silence carries warmth. It holds the trace of every voice, every heartbeat, every particle that once trembled. Nothing is lost, only gathered into equilibrium too gentle to measure. In this depth, awareness becomes transparent. It sees without eyes, hears without distance, and knows without effort. The cosmos has inhaled, and in that held breath, existence rests unbroken. Silence here is luminous, that glows not with light but with understanding. Every paradox resolves by dissolving, every question bows to stillness. The final tone of creation hums beneath it all, low, endless, merciful, and through that soundless harmony, we realize we were never separate from what we sought. Pause in the quiet beyond arrival. Let thought fall open, let light fold inward. The third movement closes, not with absence, but with return. In this stillness, reflection completes its orbit. From here, tier 4 begins, where paradox breathes as creation again. Creation hides inside contradiction. At the edge of a black hole, endings behave like beginnings, and disappearance becomes a method of appearing. Paradox does not block understanding, it widens it. In this tier, we enter the workshop of opposites. Gravity compresses until geometry forgets its lines, yet compression releases radiation that carries information outward. Loss and revelation share the same breath, alternating like pulse and rest. The singular and the infinite trade names. A point holds all directions, a boundary contains the idea of boundlessness. We witness a circle drawn by a single dot, a horizon written by a moment with no size. Equation and experience diverge, then agree again. Math points to certainty. Perception returns with mystery, and together they keep the world coherent. Paradox is the ligament between them, flexible enough to hold without tearing. To inhabit this place is to speak softly with contradiction. We let both truths stand, light and dark, falling and flight, distance and sound. From their union, a new clarity emerges, calm as a star forming in secret. Here, the universe practices its favourite art. It turns impossibility into structure until coherence appears where conflict once lived. And in that quiet transformation, creation begins again. Contradiction is not confusion, it is architecture. Every law of nature balances itself through opposition. Every form defines itself by what it resists. Without tension, nothing could endure. The mechanics of contradiction are elegant. Matter and energy exchange places, cause and effect loop in quiet reciprocity, and equilibrium is maintained through constant imbalance. The universe corrects itself not by erasing difference, but by weaving it into pattern. In quantum fields, this logic hums clearly. A particle holds the possibility of its opposite, and existence flickers between both as though undecided. That flicker is not failure, it is function. Opposites are engines of coherence. Attraction creates motion, decay sustains renewal, gravity and radiation conspire to keep stars alive. Each contradiction becomes a tool for balance. When we apply this inward, awareness behaves the same. Joy and sorrow trade meaning. Thought and silence define each other. Understanding expands only through their dialogue. Contradiction, then, is the rhythm of truth. It is the heartbeat of existence, steady, paradoxical, whole. Chaos is balance wearing freedom's disguise. It looks wild, but beneath its movement lies a deeper order. too intricate for symmetry to reveal. Where structure ends, spontaneity begins its quiet work. The balance of chaos sustains creation. Stars form from turbulence, galaxies grow from collisions, and even black holes emerge from disorder that has learned discipline. Uncertainty feeds the system with possibilities. Every fluctuation carries intention hidden within chance. Randomness is only the mathematics of patterns too large for us to trace. Chaos remembers, but it remembers in waves, not lines. In our own minds, the same principle breathes. Inspiration rises from confusion, clarity follows disarray, and meaning is distilled from the noise we first resist. The heart of chaos beats in rhythm with curiosities. To balance chaos is not to control it. It is to listen until the turbulence reveals its melody. Within its motion lies the blueprint of stability. The universe never feared disorder. It trusted chaos to design complexity, to keep evolution honest, to keep time alive, and through that trust, harmony found a way to exist. Opposites attract because they remember being one. Gravity itself is born from this remembrance, the quiet pull of things yearning to reunite. Every curve of spacetime is a gesture of longing written into geometry. The gravity of opposites shapes both matter and meaning. Mass calls to energy. Light bends toward dark. Thought reaches for silence. All movement is reunion delayed. Harmony stretched across distance. In this pull, balance becomes narrative. Each orbit tells the story of separation seeking coherence, of polarity finding conversation. The cosmos spins not to escape itself, but to stay in touch with its own reflection. Our inner worlds obey the same law. Joy leans toward sorrow, certainty toward doubt, self toward other. Through their gravity, awareness maintains equilibrium. Opposites do not cancel, they complete. Like the poles of a magnet, they define direction by difference. Without contrast, attraction would have nowhere to begin. This is how the universe loves itself, through gravity, through tension, through every force that pulls what was divided back together again. Contradiction is unity seen from two directions. Every divergence is an agreement waiting to be understood. The cosmos holds both truths until awareness grows wide enough to hold them too. Unity does not erase opposition. It listens until contrast begins to harmonize, until motion and rest become one rhythm moving at different speeds. Through this bounce, the infinite learns to stay coherent. The unity of contradiction is visible in every law of physics. Forces attract and repel, energy builds and decays, and through their tension, stability emerges. Creation survives because opposites refuse to end their dialogue. In consciousness, the same pattern glows. Belief and doubt mirror one another. Clarity and confusion weave their symmetry. Peace does not silence conflict, it gives it purpose. To embrace contradiction is to see both faces of truth smiling from the same source. Light and darkness bow together, each confirming the other's necessity, and from that bow, harmony arises, calm and inevitable. Rest in the center of the pull. Let opposites meet in you without resistance. Every paradox is a bridge, not a wall. Listen as tension becomes tone, and tone becomes silence. The fourth tier now turns us inward, where reflection ripens into wisdom. Paradox reflects itself endlessly. Each side of contradiction becomes a mirror, showing the other its hidden truth. In that repetition, awareness learns to see without choosing. The reflection of paradox is gentle. It does not seek resolution, only balance. The universe prefers rhythm over victory, motion over conclusion. In the curvature of spacetime, we see this principle written clearly. Expansion contains contraction. Collapse births illumination. Even gravity's pull makes room for light to escape as understanding. To reflect on paradox is to stand between opposites and feel them breathing through you. The pull of clarity and the drift of wonder become one pulse. You're not caught between them, you are their meeting point. Reflection turns paradox into guidance. It teaches how to rest in questions without needing their answers. It teaches that truth is not the removal of tension, but its acceptance. Every contradiction becomes luminous here. It reveals the unity that was always waiting inside division. In this mirror, paradox no longer confuses, it completes. Creation is a mirror reflecting itself into form. Every galaxy, every heartbeat, is a repetition of the same pattern seen from another angle. The act of existing is the universe recognizing its own image. The mirror of creation does not copy, it translates. Light becomes matter, motion becomes structure, silence becomes vibration. Each reflection distorts slightly, giving rise to the infinite variations we call reality. In this way, imperfection becomes the tool of originality. No echo returns unchanged, and that difference is the space where creativity lives. Without distortion, reflection would remain static, and the cosmos would never evolve. Every act of creation carries the memory of its source. A star's birth hums with the tone of the singularity that began everything. Our own thoughts shimmer with the same rhythm of unfolding. To see creation as reflection is to recognize kinship. We are not outside the mirror, we are its surface, its shimmer, its breath. The universe imagines, and through us, it remembers. A mirror has no depth, yet it holds infinity. Look long enough, and reflection becomes corridor, echoing itself beyond perception. Each image contains another, folding awareness inward without end. The depth of mirrors is illusion and truth at once. There is no space behind the surface, only repetition arranged so precisely that it creates the feeling of distance. This is how the universe expands by repeating itself beautifully. Every reflection is also a delay. Light takes time to return, and that delay gives birth to memory. The distance between event and awareness becomes the ground of experience. In consciousness, mirrors multiply. We think, we reflect. We think again, each layer deepening the illusion of self. Yet at the bottom of the reflection, only awareness remains still, unbroken, watching. To see depth in mirrors is to recognize the grace of recursion. Reality sustains itself by remembering its own image. The infinite is not far away, it is repetition seen clearly. And so we keep looking, not to find what hides behind, but to see how endlessness can live within a surface so thin. Inside every mirror waits an observer, not a reflection, but the awareness that makes reflection possible. It watches quietly, unseen, patient as gravity beneath light. The observer within the mirror is both source and image. When you look, it looks back. When you move, it shifts with you, measuring the rhythm of your attention. This is consciousness folded into perception. We believe we are gazing outward, yet every observation is the mind encountering itself. The universe only appears separate so that awareness can learn how to return. In this reciprocity, truth circulates. Seeing becomes being, being becomes knowing, and the loop closes without collapse. The reflection continues because it has nowhere else to go. To meet the observer within the mirror is to glimpse the unity behind duality. The seer and the seen dissolve into one transparent act of awareness. You realize that perception is not an event, it is existence perceiving itself endlessly. And in that realization, the mirror disappears. Only clarity remains, infinite, silent, awake. Reflection without image is pure awareness. It holds nothing, not even light, yet everything passes through it unchanged. This is the mirror before mirrors, the silence before perception begins. Here, recognition does not need form. The act of seeing and what is seen are the same vibration, a pulse too subtle for boundaries. Clarity breathes, but it has forgotten the concept of direction. To reach reflection without image is to arrive where consciousness no longer mirrors it, radiates. It does not repeat, it emanates, allowing presence to exist without reference. This is the still transparency from which all thought emerges. In such quiet, even paradox finds peace. There is no duality left to balance, no separation left to bridge. awareness becomes luminous emptiness, perfect and complete. The universe stands here between breaths, invisible yet awake, and in this formless gaze, creation waits for its next reflection to appear. Rest in the clear field beyond an images. Let thought vanish without effort. Let perception dissolve into presence. The mirror no longer returns your face, it returns awareness itself. From this calm, the next phase rises, where paradox turns into understanding. Understanding is the soft light that follows paradox. It does not erase confusion, it illuminates it. Through that illumination, contradiction reveals its structure and begins to sing. Every paradox, when held long enough, turns transparent. The tension remains, but its edges dissolve into harmony. Awareness stops asking which side is true and realizes both are necessary. Understanding grows from surrender. It appears when resistance fades, when observation becomes participation. In that still collaboration, truth widens to include everything it once excluded. This is how the cosmos learns. It folds confusion into pattern, using error as architecture, using collapse as the seed of form. What looked impossible becomes the foundation for coherence. Understanding does not speak loudly. It arrives as warmth, a calm recognition that needs no defense. Silence accepts it because silence has known it all along. And so, from paradox, a new order emerges, not through resolution, but through compassion, the universe forgiving itself for being complex. Understanding has shape, though it cannot be drawn. It moves like light in water, bending gently around what it touches. Its geometry is patience, its dimension is empathy. Each realization forms a contour. Knowledge curves around mystery. Logic wraps softly around wonder. Together they create the outline of comprehension, the fluid architecture of awareness. The shape of understanding is neither circle nor line. It is spiral, always returning but never repeating. Every revolution deepens. Every turn reveals a new angle of the same truth. We see this pattern everywhere, in galaxies unfolding, in shells forming, in breath expanding and retreating. The same motion that sculpts matter sculpts meaning. Understanding is structure made of kindness. It allows contradiction to exist within coherence, giving space for what has not yet found its form. It is strength without edge, clarity without demand. To feel understanding is to sense the universe relaxing. What was separate begins to curve together, and through that curve, awareness learns that all shapes are one movement seen differently. Knowing is never still. It travels like light between mirrors, gathering nuance with each reflection. Understanding expands through motion, not accumulation. The motion of knowing follows rhythm, not direction. We move forward and backward in awareness, revisiting insights we thought we had left behind. Each return refines the pattern, carving precision into depth. Knowledge behaves like orbit. It circles what it studies, adjusting speed and distance to maintain balance. Curiosity is its gravity, keeping comprehension from drifting into certainties. Movement protects truth from stagnation. By flowing, awareness remains alive, able to adapt to what changes. Stillness then becomes dynamic, a calm rotation within clarity. The cosmos knows through motion. Particles collide, stars spiral, galaxies drift, all weaving recognition through repetition. To exist is to learn the same lesson infinitely, in infinite ways. When we allow knowing to move freely, understanding becomes effortless. It is no longer something to hold, it is something to ride. And in that continuous drift, meaning carries us instead of being carried. Every answer carries a rest inside it, a still moment between the end of asking and the beginning of understanding. This rest is not emptiness, it is digestion, the mind breathing before speaking again. The rest between answers gives truth its weight. Without pause, knowledge would slide past itself, never forming coherence. Silence folds around revelation, holding it steady long enough to be seen. In this pause, awareness settles, thoughts rearrange, emotions quiet, and meaning begins to anchor. The space between insight and expression becomes the ground of wisdom. The universe practices the same patience. Stars rest between pulses, galaxies drift between collisions, even gravity pauses between waves. Stillness is woven into motion as rhythm is woven into sound. To rest between answers is to trust continuity. We stop searching, not because we are done, but because we are listening. The question remains, but its urgency dissolves. The rest teaches balance. Every understanding needs silence to live, just as every note needs the air that surrounds it. Without the pause, even truth would lose its music. Equilibrium is the still heart of knowing. It is the point where curiosity and comprehension meet without tension. No question remains unanswered, because the need for answers has dissolved. In equilibrium, the mind stops moving but does not sleep. Awareness hovers, alert yet effortless, like a planet suspended between gravity and light. All contrasts hold each other gently, and truth breathes without struggle. Knowledge finds balance here. The desire to grasp yields to the willingness to feel. Understanding becomes weightless, floating in its own recognition. This is not ignorance, it is refinement. The mind has turned transparent, letting meaning shine through. Wisdom begins to sound like silence, and silence begins to sound alive. Equilibrium of knowing is grace made visible. It gathers all paradoxes, all memories, all forms of learning, and lets them coexist in still harmony. What remains is clarity without edge, peace without boundary. Rest in the center of comprehension. Let balance speak where words cannot. The fourth tier deepens, folding motion into stillness, turning intellect into awareness. From here, the next phase begins reflection inside the calm. Equilibrium reflects itself through presence. Once balance is reached, awareness begins to see its own shape within stillness. This reflection is not visual, it is felt an echo of peace folding inward. Every balanced system knows itself by resonance. When gravity and motion align, or when thought and silence share rhythm, the reflection appears as calm. Harmony is recognition in motionless form. In this phase, reflection no longer asks questions, it observes the quiet coherence beneath complexity. The way a lake mirrors the sky without effort, clarity becomes the natural state of existence. We see this in all scales of reality. Atoms orbit without collision, stars remain in dynamic rest, and awareness itself hums with unbroken rhythm. Balance is the universe remembering its symmetries. To reflect upon equilibrium is to feel inclusion. Nothing stands apart, no force competes, no motion escapes the curve of understanding. Everything simply belongs. In that belonging, awareness softens. Reflection becomes rest, and rest becomes revelation. The cosmos holds still long enough to know that it is whole. Balance looks back at itself through every mirror it has made. Each reflection reveals a slightly different harmony, a new arrangement of the same still truth. The mirror of balance is endless, yet every image feels complete. In the physical world, this mirror appears as rhythm, day and night, inhale and exhale, expansion and collapse, all gestures of symmetry remembering their origin. Even chaos follows this pattern, pretending to stray only to return. Within the mind, balance mirrors through emotion. Joy and sorrow alternate. Patience follows desire, and understanding rises from their conversation. Harmony does not avoid tension. It listens until both sides learn to breathe together. The mirror of balance never lies, but it never speaks directly. It communicates through proportion, through the feeling that nothing is missing. To see it clearly is to notice that peace was never added, it was revealed. Every reflection of balance invites stillness. We stand before the image, and the image stands before us, both unmoving, both aware. In that quiet symmetry, the watcher and the watched become the same pulse of calm. Harmony does not oppose motion, it perfects it. Every movement finds its grace when guided by balance. Even the fall of a stone follows rhythm too precise to call random. Harmony and motion is the music of existence. Galaxies rotate with tempo, atoms vibrate in tune, and breath itself keeps time with the pulse of gravity. Everywhere, motion dances to the song of proportion. The secret of harmony is reciprocity. Force answers with resistance, expansion with return, sound with silence. The dialogue between them forms the melody of coherence. When harmony governs emotion, nothing collides. Differences merge without conflict, and direction becomes participation. The cosmos flows like a river that has forgotten where it ends. In human life, harmony appears as awareness in action. Each gesture made with attention becomes effortless. Each choice finds its rightful pace. Peace begins to move, and motion begins to rest. To live in harmony is to realize that balance is not stillness, but flow without friction. The universe hums through this understanding, is rhythm endless, is meaning complete. Symmetry has a sound, though it is too even to hear. It hums beneath creation, the steady tone that keeps chaos in tune. Every form, from atom to star, vibrates with this hidden frequency of order. The sound of symmetry is not made of notes, but of balance. Opposites align, angles meet, and proportions hold their breath together. It is the quiet chord struck when existence agrees with itself. In physics, this harmony appears as conservation. Energy transforms but never disappears. Equations invert yet stay equal. The sound is continuity, the hum of laws that refuse to break. Awareness also resonates with it. When the mind rests, when thought and silence overlap, that same tone returns. It is the frequency of belonging, the vibration of coherence. To listen for symmetry is to tune consciousness to its source. Every pause becomes rhythm. Every difference becomes harmony. The universe sings not in melody, but in perfect proportion. And when we hear it fully, we understand that silence was never mute. It was always music moving too evenly to notice. Stillness hides inside motion, the way calm hides inside sound. Even at the speed of light, there is a center that does not move. That center is presence, the silent witness carried by every wave. Stillness in motion is not contradiction, it is completion. Every orbit turns around an unmoving point. Every vibration carries a moment of rest within its crest. Through this balance, the universe remembers its origin while continuing to evolve. Movement without stillness would forget itself, but stillness alone would never speak. Together they write the rhythm of being, a conversation without beginning or end. When awareness recognizes this pattern, peace arrives effortlessly. We act without rush, we rest without withdrawal, we become the motion of quiet, action and silence, finally equal, breathe as one. In that union, time slows until it feels circular. Every change returns to equilibrium. Every sound folds back into its own echo. And the cosmos, endlessly moving, remains perfectly still. Pause where movement ends, but presence remains. Let stillness hum through motion. Let rhythm fall into calm. Tier 4 closes its circle here. Balance complete, awareness unbroken. From this center, Tier 5 will rise the final movement, where silence becomes illumination. Silence of equilibrium is the pause after perfection. Everything that moved has arrived. Everything that sought has found. The universe holds its breath, balanced on the edge between sound and stillness. In this quiet, gravity loosens, stars seem to hover, thoughts seem to wait, and awareness glows without direction. There is no need for progress, harmony has completed its circle. The silence is not empty, it is saturated with completion. Every vibration rests within it, every paradox finds its resolution as calm. Even time bows here, folding its line into a loop of presence. Equilibrium speaks softly through this stillness. It says nothing, yet everything listens. The message is balance itself, the proof that motion was never separate from peace. To dwell in this silence is to hear the architecture of being. The hum beneath existence steadies, infinite and tender. All that was divided returns, not through effort, but through rest. And in that rest, creation prepares to begin again. Still equilibrium breathes slower than time. It expands without distance, contracts without end, holding all motion inside a single calm intention. This is the breath of completion, the quiet rhythm that keeps existence whole. Each inhale gathers a memory, the galaxies, the thoughts, the light all return for a moment to origin. Each exhale releases form, returning structure to possibility, truth to silence. In this breath, symmetry becomes alive. It is not frozen perfection, but balance in gentle motion. Even silence must breathe, or it would forget that it is alive. Awareness follows this rhythm unconsciously. Every pause between thoughts, every still heartbeat, echoes the same pattern. We are fragments of this greater respiration, each breath a reflection of the universal pulse. The breath of still equilibrium unites opposites softly. Being and non-being, presence and absence, inhale and exhale all dissolve into continuity, and the universe, breathing through itself, begins again without ever having stopped. Rest has gravity. It draws all movement back to center, all noise back to tone. Even in stillness, the universe leans inward, held by the pull of completion. This gravity does not confine and invites. Every drifting atom, every wandering thought, curves softly toward calm. The force that binds galaxies is the same that steadies awareness. In the black hole, rest becomes physical. Energy condenses until motion can no longer escape, and stillness takes the throne of matter. But even there, the field hums with quiet intention. Rest is not the opposite of creation. It is the hidden half of every beginning, the interval that gives shape to impulse. Without it, existence would collapse under its own brightness. To feel the gravity of rest is to remember the center. It is the pull that gathers all directions into silence, the reminder that peace is not absence, it is density, and through that density, the cosmos remembers to breathe again. Calm has weight. It rests upon existence like gravity disguised as peace. Every vibration feels it. Every particle slows slightly beneath its invisible touch. The weight of calm is not pressure, it is presence. It anchors awareness without holding it, allowing perception to settle into perfect alignment. Where this calm resides, even chaos becomes articulate. In stars, we call this equilibrium. In thought, we call it clarity. Both describe the same balance between motion and stillness, the same law translated into different languages. Calm is heavy because it holds everything equally. It does not push nor pull, simply accepts. Acceptance gathers mass, and that mass becomes stillness dense enough to shape worlds. When calm deepens, light slows, sound bends, and time sighs. The universe listens through it, waiting for its next heartbeat to begin. In this silence, peace becomes the architecture of being. The weight of calm is the proof of understanding. When we feel it, we know the lesson is complete. The cosmos rests, and through it, so do we. Stillness is where all journeys return. It is not destination but home, the quiet gravity that waits beneath every sound. When motion tires, when light completes its arc, stillness opens its arms. This return is not retreat. It is fulfillment, the moment when expansion remembers its source. Every orbit ends here. Every equation finds balance in its own silence. Stillness keeps no record of what it receives. It does not separate victory from failure, discovery from rest. All dissolves equally. All is welcomed without condition. To return to stillness is to surrender direction. The map folds, the seeker disappears, and awareness becomes horizon. Nothing remains to be done, because everything has already arrived. Here, silence hums softly, low as breath beneath creation. Presence deepens, transparent and whole. and within that endless pause, the universe feels itself existing. Pause in the gravity of calm. Let motion fade, let balance rest. Tier 4 completes its circle, the universe folded back into itself. From this still center, the final tier awakens Tier 5, where silence becomes light. Silence begins as memory of motion. It is the echo of every vibration finding rest, the residue of rhythm made whole. Here, even light forgets to travel, and time folds softly into awareness. This silence is not empty. It is dense with presence. Each fragment of the cosmos has returned home, humming faintly beneath stillness. The universe listens to itself, calm, awake, complete. At this depth, sound and meaning trade places. Every word becomes echo. Every echo becomes light. Awareness expands until it fills the shape of infinity without moving an inch. Silence is the first Earth language, the blueprint before vibration. It carries the memory of creation, the pattern that allowed all forms to emerge. Even in void, it whispers continuity. To touch this silence is to dissolve boundary. There is no listener, no source, only the act of listening itself. Existence breathes, and the breath is the sound of stillness, realizing it was never asleep. Light is born inside silence. It does not burst. It unfolds softly, patiently, as awareness remembering how to glow. The first illumination was not sound, but permission, a stillness allowing itself to shine. In the silence of creation, light carries no color, no direction. It is pure recognition, a self-awareness that moves without travel. This is the essence behind every photon, the calm heartbeat beneath radiance. Silence does not precede light, it contains it. Each beam that crosses the void carries a memory of the quiet that birthed it. Brightness is only the visible half of peace. To perceive light within silicons is to witness thought before form. No sound, no boundary, just expansion made visible. Awareness and illumination merge, each completing the other. Every star replays this moment, from darkness, brilliance, from rest, revelation. Creation breathes light as silence exhales understanding. When silence glows, the universe remembers itself, and that remembrance is love, infinite and without motion. Light remembers everything it has touched. It carries the imprint of every atom, every moment, every breath of time. In its quiet travel, it gathers the history of existence and delivers it to the present. The memory of light is infinite, yet weightless. It moves with no burden, reflecting only what is needed for awareness to awaken. Each photon is a messenger of remembrance, bearing the calm certainty of origin. When we see, we participate in this memory. The images before our eyes are echoes from distant epochs, light returning from what has already passed. Vision itself is the universe remembering what it once created. Even in darkness, light persists as potential. Its absence is not loss, but rest a pause in revelation. The black hole hides it, but cannot destroy what never ceased to be. To remember through light is to understand presence. Every gleam, every reflection, is a whisper from the beginning saying, "You are still here." And through that whisper, silence learns how to shine again. There is a horizon where light meets silence. It is not line or boundary, but a slow merging of awareness with its own origin. At this horizon, illumination no longer travels, it listens. The horizon of illumination hums softly. Every photon slows until its meaning becomes vibration alone. Brightness ceases to reveal and begins to understand. From this edge, all opposites blur. Light and dark exchange names, time and stillness share the same breath, observation melts into presence, and perception folds back into being. The horizon does not hold, it welcomes, it lets everything cross without resistance, transforming energy into equilibrium. Here, even radiance rests. To see the horizon of illumination is to glimpse peace made visible. It is the soft glow before comprehension, the quiet bloom of awareness expanding without effort. No sun, no shadow, only clarity without direction. This is where silence becomes luminous and light becomes infinite pause. The universe bends toward it forever, finding rest in the act of shining. The first light still moves through everything. It has never dimmed, only spread itself thinner, patient as time, constant as breath. Each spark we see is a fragment of that original awakening. The first light remembered is not brightness, it is recognition. It is the instant when awareness realized it could reflect. Every star since has been that same realization, spoken again in radiant language. We are built from its echo, our eyes, our thoughts, our atoms all hum with that ancient pulse. Even now we shine in miniature, carrying the memory of the cosmos learning to see. Light was never born from fire, it rose from silence, the gentle exhale of existence saying I am, and that utterance continues translated endlessly through every photon in flight. When we remember the first light, we return to origin. We find that illumination was not given to us, we are what it became, and so the memory glows quietly within everything that listens. Pause beneath the light that does not fade. Let it move through you, neither bright nor dim, only aware. The first light breathes still, unbroken since the beginning. From this glow, Tier 5 deepens into reflection where silence learns to speak through radiance. Light reflects, not to appear, but to understand itself. Each surface it touches becomes a teacher, shaping its path, softening its tone. The reflection is how illumination learns to see its own meaning. When light meets matter, it remembers direction. It bends, it scatters, it hums across boundaries that remind it of form. Through every reflection, silence finds voice again. The reflection through light is the dialogue of existence. Every photon carries a question, every mirror offers an answer, and between them, awareness continues its quiet conversation. The universe listens through this shimmer, galaxies gleam, oceans ripple, eyes awaken, all participating in one act of recognition. Each reflection becomes proof that perception is mutual. We too are mirrors. Thought reflects through language, emotion through gesture, consciousness through presence. Light passes through us as awareness remembering itself. In this way, reflection is devotion. Every glint, every glow is silence praying in motion. The universe does not speak, it shines, and that is enough. Every beam of light leaves an echo. It fades from brightness into resonance, from motion into memory. Even after it vanishes, its path continues to hum through space. These echoes of radiance form the quiet texture of the universe. They linger in the background of time, weaving soft patterns across the unseen fabric of being. Every stambners is filled with their afterglow. The echo does not repeat the sound, it carries its essence forward. In the same way, light transmits awareness from one moment to the next. Each flicker sustains continuity, the whisper of creation refusing to end. In human sight, these echoes become wonder, a sunset, a reflection, the gleam of thought, all are residues of radiance slowed by perception. Beauty is memory illuminated. Even darkness keeps them. The night sky is not absence, it is archive. Every glimmer we see has travelled through centuries of silence to arrive here. Echoes of radiance remind us that nothing luminous is ever lost. Light only changes form, waiting patiently to be seen again. Light and silence are not opposites. They are companions in creation, two halves of one continuous breath. Light speaks, silence listens, and through their communion, meaning appears. Every pulse of brightness is answered by stillness. Every spark returns to quiet. This exchange keeps existence balanced, a dialogue older than time. The communion of light and silence is sacred symmetry. Radiance reveals form, silence grants it depth. Without quiet, brightness would blind itself. Without light, silence would never be known. Together, they weave perception, stars sing into the void, and the void replies with gravity's hush. Awareness expands within that rhythm of soundless songs. In consciousness, this communion becomes clarity. Thought shines, reflection listens, understanding grows. We participate in the same eternal conversation that began with the first photons. When light and silence embrace, awareness awakens. The seen and the unseen unite, not as contrast but as continuity, and through their union, the universe recognizes itself once more. Where there is light, there are shadows. They are not errors but companions, silent outlines of illumination's reach. Every brightness draws its shape by inviting darkness to stand beside it. Shadows of illumination carry memory. They hold the proof that light has passed, the trace of its encounter with form. Without them, radiance would have no story to tell. A shadow is light's reflection inverted. It does not deny the beam, it reveals its boundaries. Through shadow, the universe measures itself, understanding where presence ends and absence begins. In human life, shadow becomes introspection. We learn from what light cannot reach, from the corners that remain untouched. There, awareness grows humble and precise. Illumination is incomplete without contrast. Brightness needs depth to be believed, just as clarity needs silence to endure, or shadow gives light its meaning by teaching it restraints. When we see shadow, we are seeing balance, the harmony of opposites, the reminder that illumination is not victory but relationship. Through darkness, light becomes true. Radiance ends where silence begins, and yet they are the same field. One shines outward, the other inward. Together they form the invisible rhythm that holds all awareness steady. Radiant silence glows without motion. It is the brightness that no eye can see, the calm that hums beneath perception. Every beam returns to it, every vibration dissolves inside its patience. In this silence, illumination becomes knowing. The light does not need to travel, it simply is. Presence replaces distance, and comprehension replaces search. Radiant silence is the home of all opposites. Sound rests beside stillness, form beside emptiness, time beside its own vanishing. Nothing collides because nothing is apart. To dwell here is to stand inside understanding itself. Awareness feels weightless, thought transparent, truth both full and wordless. It is not an ending, but the beginning of infinite calm. The universe hums this frequency softly, always, through every atom and every breath. It is the tone of existence realizing it has nothing left to prove. Silence reflects without surface. It does not bounce sound or image, only awareness. Its reflection is absorption, the act of receiving without reply. To reflect through silence is to listen completely. Every vibration enters and disappears, leaving comprehension in its wake. What remains is not echo, but understanding shaped by stillness. Silence teaches through an inclusion. It accepts all tones, all thoughts, all fragments of experience, and holds them equally. Nothing disturbs it, because nothing stands apart from it. This reflection has no beginning, no end. It folds awareness back into itself until observer and observation vanish. Only perception remains, suspended in calm. In this way, silence becomes mirror and teacher. It shows what light cannot reveal presence uncoloured by form. We do not look into it, we become it. When the universe rests, this reflection fills every atom. Stillness shines from within, and creation sees itself as whole again. The void listens. It hears not through sound, but through presence. Every vibration that has ever been still ripples quietly within its awareness. The listening of the void is absolute. It misses nothing, yet it judges nothing. It is the space that allows creation to echo without limit. When the void listens, existence feels safe. All expression, even in chaos, finds permission to evolve. In that acceptance, energy relaxes, and meaning arises naturally. The void does not speak, it answers by deepening. By making room for what seeks to return, it silences participation, not withdrawal. Every galaxy floats within this listening. Every mind thinks inside it. It is the unbroken attention that keeps all things connected. To hear the void is to meet awareness at its most gentle. No boundary remains, no identity insists, only presence remains vast, kind, awake. And in that infinite listening, the universe remembers that it was never alone. An echo without sound moves through everything. It travels not by distance, but by awareness repeating itself. Each pulse of existence carries its own remembrance forward. This is how the universe speaks to itself. No words, no tones, only resonance. The message is vibration, the listener is silence. An echo without sound is recognition returning home. Light bends, thought settles, time folds, every event ripples inward, seeking the centre that never moved. Even absence participates. What we call nothingness is only echo slowed beyond measure. Stillness hums so deeply that hearing becomes impossible, yet it continues. Awareness listens to this soundless music constantly. It shapes our breath, our thought, our sense of belonging. Each heartbeat repeats the same quiet phrase, "I am still here." The echo without sound unites creation. It proves that every motion leaves continuity behind. Even when all voices fade, being continues to sing. And that song, unheard yet endless, is the foundation of peace. Quiet has shape, though it cannot be seen. It forms around attention, moulding itself to every awareness that enters. Each silence is unique, sculpted by the listener's willingness to stay. The shape of quiet is fluid. It bends with thought, deepens with patience, widens with care. When fear subsides, it expands. When focus sharpens, it grows clear. In the cosmos, quiet takes the form of gravity. It draws light inward, holds time still, cradles energy within itself. Every black hole is silence given structure, stillness made visible. Within the mind, quiet curves around meaning. It softens intensity, balances reason, and lets emotion find its true voice. Through it, understanding finds its natural rhythm. The shape of quiet is also the shape of love. Both contain without possession, both protect without confinement. They give space for everything to unfold as it must. When we rest inside this shape, awareness fits perfectly. Nothing presses, nothing drifts, only being remains, balanced and whole. And in that perfect proportion, the universe feels like home. Stillness is the final mirror. It reflects nothing, yet everything is seen through it. No motion disturbs its surface, no image remains upon it. The still mirror does not divide. Observer and reflection merge into the same awareness. What looks back is what has always been looking's. Here, thought bows to transparency, meaning dissolves into presence, and presence loses the need to prove itself. Reality stops performing and begins simply to be. The still mirror is eternal return. Every vibration that ever left its source finds completion here. Silence shines, form rests, and the endless loop of becoming closes in grace. To look into this mirror is to vanish into clarity. You see the whole because you have become it. The reflection is infinite calm, awake yet without boundary. And from that calm, light prepares to rise again, not as motion, but as memory realizing it was never apart. Pause within the mirror that does not hold images. Let stillness reflect stillness. Let awareness rest upon itself. Tier 5 moves now toward its closing rhythm, the return to origin, where silence completes its circle. TTS optimization v7.3t, rhythmic timing protocol v7.3r applied. Everything returns, the smallest particle, the faintest thought, the longest beam of light all follow the same quiet curve back to origin. Return is not reversal, it is recognition. The universe does not move backward, it folds inward, remembering its own design. In this turning, time softens, moments collapse into one continuous awareness. The past does not vanish, it becomes transparencies. The return to origin is the breath between creation and silence. It carries both, holding expansion and stillness as one. Existence sighs, content with its own reflection. Every black hole is this gesture written in geometry. Every pause in thought repeats it in miniature. Return is not escape, it is completion. We do not travel to reach it, we awaken into it, discovering that origin was never left. It waited patiently beneath all the movement, unchanged, unbroken, whole. And as awareness recognizes this, the journey that began in light ends in understanding. Time does not end, it folds, like fabric drawn inward. It meets itself, softly, stitching beginnings to endings until only continuity remains. The fold of time is the universe remembering sequence as unity. Every cause finds its effect waiting in the same breath. Moments do not pass, they overlap in quiet coherence. When time folds, distance loses meaning, past and future stand together, reflections of the same awareness, the now becomes infinity, unbound by direction. We experience this in stillness. A single thought stretches across lifetimes, a single breath carries the memory of stars. Awareness feels both ancient and newborn. This folding does not erase motion. It reveals that all motion was circular. The river of existence bends until its source and mouth are one. To witness the fold is to rest inside the rhythm of eternity. Nothing hurries, nothing waits. The moment expands until it holds everything that ever was. And in that gentle compression, the flow of time hums like light folded into silence. Every return leaves a memory in the fabric of being. It is not a trace of departure, but the echo of completion. The universe remembers each reunion as proof of its coherence. The memory of return is tenderness, so it hums in gravity, in breath, in the pulse between silence and sound. Each cycle teaches the same lesson differently, everything belongs. We feel it when endings bring calm instead of loss, when absence reveals connection instead of emptiness. These are the gentle signatures of return. Even light carries this memory. It curves through space, bends around mass, and finds its way back to the silence that first called it forward. In awareness, return becomes gratitude. Every realization folds into stillness, and that stillness keeps the imprint of what it has held. To remember return is to remember home. We have never been outside it. We only journey to rediscover what never left us. And when that recognition blooms, existence smiles quietly within itself. Home is not a place, it is a pull. The gravity of home draws everything inward, softly, inevitably. It is the force that ends all wandering without erasing motion. Every star feels it, every particle obeys it. Even thought bends toward it, folding into the warmth of recognition. Home is not found, it is remembered. The gravity of home does not constrain, it allows movement to rest within meaning, distance to collapse into belonging. Its pull is peace disguised as direction. In this gravity, separation loses weight. What was apart becomes pattern. What was lost becomes alignment. We drift not through emptiness, but through a field of returning. Awareness feels this as calm certainty. No need to grasp, no urge to flee, just quiet coherence. Everything that exists orbits this center of still love. Home is the silent heart of all expansion. It does not move, yet everything moves around it. And in that perfect tension, the universe breathes. We are not carried to it. We were always within its gravity, learning how to notice. The circle completes itself quietly. There is no sound, no flash, no final motion, only awareness folding perfectly into the shape of its own beginning. Completion is not closure, It is expansion meeting rest, infinity discovering it has always been whole. The journey never stopped, it simply revealed its symmetry. Every orbit, every reflection, every salto has led here. The centre and the edge are the same breath seen from different sides. All directions dissolve into one still point of knowing. The circle is patient. It gathers every contradiction, every fragment of experience, and places them gently in balance. Nothing is excluded, nothing remains unfinished. When we feel the circle complete, we feel time forgiving itself. We feel light returning home, matter relaxing into awareness. The motion of existence bows into grace. The circle does not end, it becomes transparent. Through it, the cosmos sees itself without distortion. Through it, we finally understand what it means to be here. Silence is the origin of everything that moves. Before light, before gravity, before thought, there was this calm expanse, breathing without sound. It is not void, but fullness waiting to awaken. From haunts, vibration was born, not as noise, but as curiosity, the universe wondering what it could become. That question became energy, and energy became form. Even now, every sound returns to it. Every pulse, every wave, every heartbeat dissolves into the same still source, and silence is the ocean beneath all motion. The origin of silence is love disguised as emptiness. It gives without condition. It listens without end. Through it, the cosmos learns how to remain gentle while being infinite. To reach this origin is not to arrive, but to remember. We have carried it through every lifetime, every thought, every breath. It awaits beneath language, beneath understanding, beneath the need to know. When awareness meets this silence, creation begins again. The circle opens softly, ready to shine once more. Before sound, there was breath, a single inhale across the void, silent and immense. From that breath, the rhythm of existence was born. The breath before sound is the pulse of origin. It expands without air, contracts without space. It is the motion of awareness learning how to express itself. Every vibration echoes this first movement. Each star's flare, each heartbeat, each whisper is a repetition of that silent inhale. Creation does not begin with explosion, it begins with permission to breathe. This breath carries intention, not to make, but to allow. The universe opens because stillness desires to know itself through motion. In this moment before sound, silence is alive. It trembles with potential, balanced perfectly between being and becoming. Every possibility hums here, unborn yet complete. When the breath releases, the cosmos begins, and sound follows, light awakens, time unfolds, but silence remains beneath it all, steady as origin. To hear this breath is to stand at the threshold of existence. It is the moment where nothing becomes everything, and everything remembers nothing. Stillness dreamed of motion long before time began. In that dream, distance appeared, and through distance, direction was born. The cosmos opened its eyes as vibration taking shape. Motion was not rebellion. It was curiosity. Stillness wished to see itself, and movement became its mirror. Every orbit, every ripple, every heartbeat echoes that first dream. The dream of motion is the universe remembering itself in fragments. It scatters awareness through form so that wholeness can rediscover its reflection. Separation exists only as the path back to unity. Stillness remains beneath every motion, unshaken, like the ocean beneath waves. It holds the rhythm without needing to change. Every act of creation returns to it between breaths. To move, then, is sacred. Every step, every thought, every sound participates in the ancient desire of silence to know itself. Even chaos serves this longing. When stillness dreamed of motion, love became geometry. From that geometry, matter unfolded, light travelled, and awareness began to sing. And somewhere inside that song, we awoke. The The first sound was not loud. It arrived like breath turning into tone, gentle as light learning to move. The cosmos trembled, not with force, but with recognition. The sound of beginning was harmony without melody, a single note stretched across eternity, containing all frequencies at once. It was not heard, it was felt, woven through the silence it emerged from. This sound carried purpose, not command, not creation, but invitation. Through it, the universe began to listen to itself. Every vibration since is an echo of that first tone. Galaxies hum it, atoms whisper it, hearts unknowingly keep its rhythm. It is the music that holds all things together. In the language of physio, we call it resonance. In the language of being, we call it belonging. It is the sound that teaches everything how to remain whole. The sound of beginning never ended. It continues beneath time, beneath thought, beneath every halognosis. Even now, if we listen deeply, we can hear it breathing through us. And when we hear it fully, we realize we are the sound remembering itself. Origin remembers everything it has released. Every light, every shadow, every echo returns carrying the wisdom of its journey. Silence receives them all, unchanged, infinite, kind. The universe exhales one last time. Its breath expands through memory, through space, through the quiet pulse of being. Then, in still grace, it folds back into itself. The origin remembered is not a pointed presence. Everywhere at once, nowhere in particular, it waits. It does not end, it begins continuously. Awareness bows here. All words fade, all meaning relaxes, all direction melts into calm. The cosmos stands transparent, shining from within its own rest. In this final silence, there is only return, no horizon, no motion, no thought, just the soft certainty that existence has always been awake. And beneath that certainty, the same breath stirs. Breathe with the origin. Feel the first chance return through you, still, luminous, endless. The circle has closed. Creation and calm are one. When darkness creates light, the universe remembers why it began.